Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Nicki Steinberger. She says the new wave in health here is intuitive-driven healthcare. It invites you to take a leap beyond the industry-driven BS, exhaustion from information overload, and seeking permission to heal yourself. She's written a fantastic book called Wave Goodbye to Type 2 Diabetes. We will be talking about that, but we're going to be talking about getting healthy post-COVID. I think there's quite a number of us that have gained a few pounds. We haven't been as active as we should have been. And, perhaps even our mindset is a little bit foggy. It's been a year now that we've been going on with this, and we're all at that kind of point in our lives is like, when is it going to be over? Will I ever get back into a routine? What is the best routine for me? What have I learned during this time? What can I take forward with me? Well, this is what Nicki's going to share with us today. So health, the title of the show is called Your Health is Your Choice, because it is, isn't it? We can have people like yourself who can guide us, show us which programs work, what skills, tools, and everything else that works. But if we don't apply it and take ownership of it ourselves, we are not taking ownership over our own health. So what do we do, Nicki? What do we do? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Well, as you've said, intuitive driven healthcare. And what that means is that we listen to ourselves.
Mm,
We've gotten so far away, between the man or woman in the white coat to all the information that's available on the internet. And certainly, we can pick and choose, we can do our research. But what it really comes down to, first of all, is, you know, tapping into our bodies and listening to that small voice. I like to say, if you have an inkling, perhaps, that, let's say, you're eating too much sugar, you
mhm.
don't need to go Google, am I eating too much sugar? How much sugar is too much sugar? We've just really gone in a far direction from listening to ourselves and actually, taking action from that
Mhm.
place without needing permission from someone or something else.
That's a huge one because, yes, how many people Google their symptoms and then next thing you know, they've got cancer, they've got diabetes, they've got this, they've got that, they've got 100 different diseases because so many of them mimic the same thing or have the same symptoms. But, that's the exterior point of view. Go to a doctor if you're really, really concerned. But if you are still with yourself, and you know your own system and you know that you're not functioning properly, it's for you to look at, okay, what's in my way? What have I changed? Or, is it I'm eating too much during COVID? Am I not being as active? Is my worrying causing problems? Am I getting the right nutritions for the circumstances? And all of this is so important, but we don't stop to ask ourselves that, do we? We ask exterior, not interior.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're searching for everything outside of ourselves. It's like if you have pre-diabetes and now you have to go do the research on if you have to take any steps because, will you get type 2 diabetes or how long does it take? Or, when it's like really, you have enough cues, you have enough
Mm,
information, now get to work, and how do you do that?
right. The how do you do that? That's the important thing because you said we are an information overload. And so we're hearing all the exterior information and oh, you've got to, you should, this will do this will do, take back your life. And we've got all of that in our faces all the time, from whether you're online, TV, wherever you are, it's yelling at you. And as I said, we're not still enough to know what's going wrong with our own body. And if we cannot answer that ourselves, like, okay, this is not functioning properly, or I'm feeling lethargic, or I'm more tired than usual. You need to go to someone who understands that, who knows how to ask the right questions and put you back on track. Yes, you do need that. But first and foremost, you know how it is when you go to the doctor and you've got a list of things wrong, and the moment he says, what's wrong, you open your mouth and I don't know. But you knew a moment ago while you were in the
Yeah.
waiting room, right? Something intimidates us about going to the doctor, and I don't know what it is. And I think part fear is that the first thing they're going to do is give you a pill, instead of going, okay, well, what could be the root cause? They don't have the time for the root cause anymore,
That's
right?
a very good point. I don't know if they ever did, but
Mm,
a few things from what you said. One, with this information overload, we tend to compare ourselves to other
mm,
people,
yeah.
and that is just so to our detriment, right?
Hmm.
So let's all of us, I'm guilty of that too, stop doing that. And another thing you talked about, the symptoms, we've come to a place where we settle. And this notion, oh, I'm older, or whatever the excuses and reasons for, that's okay that my digestion is off, that's
Mm.
okay that my blood pressure is a little high. It's not. You don't have to feel like crap.
Right. Yeah.
um, on the doctor front, if you're not working, if you don't have a co-participant in your health, someone where you can share a philosophy to some degree,
Hmm.
share a language to some degree, and someone who's going to be an advocate for you and support you in your health and healing journey, hey, get another doctor.
Yeah.
We don't have to bow down to that person. And oftentimes, when we've done the research and we've been involved, and we're in nutrition and we're taking care of ourselves, we know more than our
Yes.
doctor on some of these situations. So don't be afraid to find someone else who will support you.
And it doesn't have to be the traditional doctor. I mean, I had one doctor at one time, and I was at that time married to a Chinese gentleman, and she would say, okay, I think this is the issue. What Chinese medicine can you take first? Right. And it was always the Western medicine was the last resort. Unless it was bacterial, then we just get that little course of it. But then how do you rebuild your system afterwards? And she was very much on that holistic, way before her times. This is like 38 years ago, which was definitely way before her time. Um, I think if we, right now where I'm living, there's a shortage of doctors. There's like an 800 people waiting list for a doctor. And even the walk-in clinics, if you want to go to a walk-in clinic, to try and get an appointment that morning, you've got to line up at 7 o'clock, to get first come, first serve. So it's in a way kind of the universe shifting us to, well, maybe the doctor doesn't have all the answers. Maybe you should be looking somewhere else. If it's muscular, then maybe you need a massage therapist or somebody who can release energy. If it's nutritional, go to the people who specialize in that and who intuitively can feel your body and help you understand what it is you're feeling and what you can do about it, right?
Absolutely. And it makes me think of how I use primary practitioners now, or general practitioners now, more as, a resource,
Yes.
coming in and telling that person what I think I need, and sort of sharing the platform and then asking for the referrals. I
Mm,
mean, that's, one way that it works here in the US, but literally like asking for the referrals. And we really have to advocate. Just because their first response might be, no, I don't think you need that, or no, we'll wait, that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation.
right.
We get to
Right.
say, no, this is really important to me now. And I've had to really kind of push a few times to get a particular blood test, let's say, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, as I said, we can go to doctors and we can forget what we went for because suddenly we feel intimidated. They're on the clock and it's like they've got a whole load of people waiting. They're behind time as it is. And you go in there and you feel, I'm taking up their time. And then you just maybe you only ask one thing when you've got a dozen things on the list, or you're only allowed to ask about one thing. Right? You're not even allowed to address anything else. So the doctor's never getting the whole picture. He hasn't got time for it anymore, right? It's like, well, what's the symptoms? So it must be this. You need to take that. Um, I know that I've had blood tests during an infection and my blood sugars go up. And immediately they say, oh, you're diabetic. We've got to get you on the pills. We've got to get you on that. You may need to go into injections. And I go, I'm not diabetic. When I have an infection, my sugar things seem to go high. Once the infection's gone, it goes down again. And I've had arguments with doctors on this about the diabetes. I am not diabetic and refuse to go the drug way, which doesn't always please them. But we do have to fight for our own bodies, for what we believe. We're living with ourselves all the time, right? We do know something about our bodies and our health.
Hopefully, yeah. And I mean, and what you're describing is that knowing,
Mm,
that wisdom, and obviously the willingness that you've had to look in and trust yourself. I have, more than one client who, thinks that they need to ask the doctor for permission to, wean off a pharmaceutical, per
yeah.
se. It's like, we don't need permission, right? You might have a difference of opinion and you might have to push a little bit harder, but you get to be a co-participant in your
Yes.
health care.
Yes. That's the way it should be. They're there to help you get well. And so they're there in their training that we know, like nutrition or any holistic training is non-existent. Um, but they're there to kind of just, deduce what's the problem and help you get well. And as I said, this doctor years ago was like, what holistic way can you do it? She didn't know enough about it, but she knew, try, look, this is the problem. What will help you on either, the Chinese medicine or other medicines rather than putting me on drugs? Because, we're not bashing doctors, and certainly not now during COVID. They've worked their butts off here. Um, we're looking at a system that has stopped listening to the patient and deducing something by a couple of symptoms and immediately going into the drugs because the pharmaceutical reps are there all the time pushing them. And we have to say no to that. There's that whole advertising going out saying no to drugs, but saying no to antibiotics because there is an overprescription of antibiotics going on that break the system down, and now you're developing something else. So holistically is where we need to go first, I think, or we get the diagnosis and then go holistically. But then you run into the problem saying, a doctor threatening them, if you go holistically, I won't treat you anymore.
Yeah, that's a reality. And that's where you get to know who the person is.
Yes.
And that's where you get to choose someone else. We must stand up and be proactive and advocate for ourselves and not, hear this, listen to this, and think, okay, well, I hope the system will change. That sounds really good to me. And I'm all in when that system changes, I'll be ready for that. No, that could be a very long time or never. We don't know. So it has to start with you, with each one of us. And I know it can be intimidating. And like some doctors, they won't work with you if you're not going to be on the
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And, they're very good at instilling a lot of fear
Yeah.
into worst case scenario about what will happen to us if we don't take X drug. So it's a personal decision that everybody has to decide for themselves, but they are not the all-knowing human being. Really, like you said, very little training on nutrition and alternative therapies because big pharma is,
Hmm.
right behind them. So yeah.
Yeah. I know. I had a doctor once. I was diagnosed with a fibromyalgia, and at that time, a treatment drug was coming out, and he put me on this discovery plan, and I didn't like the way it made me feel. And I also found out that those pills would dry out the sockets of the teeth.
Mm,
And, there was a head dentist at the university who knew people were on these pills because immediately he could tell by the dry socket. And so I said, I'm not going to take these anymore. I don't like the way I feel on them. There's this. And I got a whole load of, you don't know what you're talking about. And sometime later, I had a car accident and I had to get my medical report. And I read this medical report and I was expecting somebody to come knocking at the door and coming to arrest me
mm.
because I wouldn't take it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so, intimidating completely. We should never, ever, ever be treated in a threatening way when it comes to our health. That does not make us better. It raises the stress level. Now we've got even more problems.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we'll face is doctors really not knowing how to answer questions because they haven't done the research, they haven't kept up
Yeah,
because they want to stay with what they want, what they know, they want to stay with what's familiar, it's easier, they're stressed out, and it's easier to just go with the flow, to go with big pharma. And if they start to feel threatened because we're asking deeper questions and we
yeah,
want to very much be a co-participant in our health, they might just, shrug it off to, well, this is the pill that we know works. And, science shows and research shows, and some of that is very old and very outdated.
right, exactly. Yeah, I told him about echinacea because I hadn't seen him for months. And when he finally saw me, I took my daughter and not me. And he goes, you look so well. You look like, because I was at one point like 8, 9 antibiotics a year, which you know what that does to the body. And I'd gone completely holistically and I was taking echinacea and numerous other nutritionists that changed my body around completely. And he said, oh, that would put me out of business. And then sometime later, I went in again, I think with one of my kids, and he goes, have you heard of echinacea?
That's
Forgetting
funny.
completely I'm the one that put him on it. But I don't know if it's a fear of embracing the alternative, that it's a threat to them, or that they're so bombarded with the pharmaceutical reps, and there aren't any holistic reps at their door. So, they're not getting the other side of it. So when the doctor says, I don't want you going holistically, or it could conflict with your drugs, one of the things we've got to remember is a great deal of the nutritionals and the holistics that we're going on are food based. They're just a supplement for the food we should be eating.
Yeah, and I think they're operating within a system, and they're really most doctors that I've come into contact with, most, not all,
Right.
they're really students of that system, and they're
Mm.
married to that system, and they were trained and taught within that system, and I don't know, somehow discomforting to think about breaking out of that system, and where do I go? I mean, this is my job and this is
Mm.
what I'm in. How can I do other? And so, for all the listeners, there are integrative
Yeah.
practitioners, there are integrative doctors that will blend perhaps the both, but the best of both of Western medicine and different integrative modalities.
Yeah, there's
So
a there's a medical university that's started doing that, integrating both medicines, so that you do have a whole picture of the whole body. And really, that's what we're looking at, the whole body, isn't it? We don't want just a band-aid put on the symptom. We want to know what is the cause. And as going back to the beginning, the intuitiveness. We know when there's something wrong, but we don't know how to diagnose it or where is it coming from. And we'll go through the whole or maybe it's stress, or I'm just worried right now, or I'm just a little overwhelmed right now. It's just throwing my body off. And then you leave it alone and you get more and more out of whack. This is where we need someone like you who can say, okay, this is an indication. It's telling you this. And when I'm telling you this, does your intuition concur?
Yeah, and so that's a great segue into, perhaps some practical steps
Hmm.
that listeners can take. So I think the first thing, and we talk about COVID, we talk about pre-COVID, post-COVID, we don't know what's going on, but we do know that right now is this moment,
Hmm.
regardless of what's to come. And I think perhaps the first step is to investigate,
Yes.
where you are at. And we must do this holistically. And what I mean by this is mind, body, and
Hmm.
spirit, the whole of who we are, the essence of who we are, right? So we investigate, we slow down, we sit down, we take inventory. Okay, ask yourself, what's going on in my mind,
Hmm.
right? Am I feeling calm and grounded? Am I stressed out? Um, you know, am I feeling anxious? Do I feel scattered and just all over the place? Is fear running me? Am I eating compulsively? Do I feel not in control of my decisions?
Hmm.
And, we check in with our bodies. What's going on? Like, do I have aches and pains? How is my digestion? If you're taking your blood sugar, blood pressure at home, what are my vitals like? Do I feel fluid in my body? Are we one person or do I feel like there's
Yeah.
three of us here, right? Am I
Yes.
connected? Do I feel like I belong in my body? And, spirit, like, where am I connecting? Am I
Mm.
connecting to other people, to nature, to the earth, to a higher power, to myself? And, really take note, start with taking inventory and then sprout, from there. That's step one, in my mind.
I agree with you. It's knowing what makes you feel good. The other day we had a beautiful sunny day here. I mean, we've already got blossoms coming up. It's just like this is February, and it was a beautiful, windy but sunny day. And I decided to go for a walk. Went to my favorite French cafe, had a pain au raisin and a coffee, sitting outside. The wind was just blowing away. The sun was beating down on me, and people were walking by, kind of, what's this woman doing outside? It's February. And it was like, it was so rejuvenating. The wind was clearing away all the cobwebs. The sun was warming my heart and soul. And I'd had a nice brisk walk. And when I got back, I just felt so much more rejuvenated. We forget about the little things that kind of rejuvenate our generator, don't we?
We do. And to me, what you just described is medicine,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that was medicine for you
Yes.
on that day, and it's not woo woo. It actually affects our
Yes.
cells, and our digestive system and our blood pressure. I mean, anything that affects blood pressure, is powerful one way or another,
Yeah.
whether it brings it down or brings it up. It's your whole cardiovascular system. So, that's fabulous. And, again, a testament to you listening to yourself,
Mm.
which perhaps is our main event here,
Yes.
on today's show, is listening to ourselves and taking action from that place and not needing permission.
Knowing what makes us feel good and making sure that we give ourselves the time to go and do it. It's like, oh, later, later, I've got to get this done. And, I can work 7 hours straight on the computer, and I know that's not good for me, right? You need to get up and walk about, you need to go and do some things. When you know something that you need to do, then make sure that somewhere along the line you do it. Oh, yeah, no, I should have done that today. I got aches and pains. Well, had you done that, you wouldn't have the aches and pains. So, the body will tell you. It will also tell you when it feels good, and then log that in the memory. Okay, what should I do to make myself feel good? Oh, that makes me feel good. Go and do it. It's always
Yes.
telling us, it's always communicating, right?
Yes, and that also speaks to how time can just evade us and
Mm,
the day can pass us by, which is why I feel that it's super important and critical to start with a sacred morning ritual practice.
hmm.
And get stuff in, get some good stuff in, the practices that support you first thing in the morning, because like you're saying, next thing we know, we've been at the computer for 7 hours, we've been sitting on our butts, totally unhealthy, and now there's just no time.
Right.
I know if I turn my phone on first thing in the morning, sometimes, well, where did my meditation practice go? Where did my
Yeah.
walk go? I'm responding back to people instead of taking care of myself. And then next thing is, well, I need to eat, and then I have that scheduled thing, so
Hmm.
my practices don't happen. So I encourage everyone, and I do this with my clients, my friends, and everyone, just get something really self-supporting in first thing in the morning.
It's kind of tuning into your channel, isn't it?
Yes.
And then that's the channel that you want to go on and that you feel safe to rise up from, and come back down to. But it's kind of, this is my vibe for the day. Says putting, oh, I'm sorry, we had a baby shower a little while ago,
That's your
and
vibe.
and this is the back screen, and I've deleted it. I don't know how to get rid of it, but it keeps popping back up again. So
How funny.
the rainbow effect, right? We all like a little rainbow in our lives, but
Yes.
it should go in a moment.
I love
Well,
what you said, though, about the channel. That's a really
mm,
neat analogy to think of, because we can relate to tapping into other people's channels,
yes,
and social media and everything else. And I like thinking about that. Hey, I'm going to wake up, I'm tuning into my
yeah,
channel.
mm,
It's a thing. It's actually a thing. It's a concrete
yes.
thing. And this is what exists in my channel that makes me feel good, right? Body, mind, and spirit. So then I can then create and share my gifts with others, the reason why we're all here in the first place.
Right. I never was really a routine person. I was always a person that kind of bucked that, kind of went with the flow. But in the last few years, I've got more into routine, and I like my hour in, I get up, have my breakfast, this, that, etc. But I have my hour where I just kind of do my little social media. I'm in a rhythm, right? And it's just getting myself prepared for the day. And if I don't have that, I feel off kilter. So, tuning into your channel, making sure that's the frequency that you're putting out there, that's the frequency people are going to interact with you, right? And you're not going to invite the lower energies because that's where you're at. And if you can't get into that vibe, then that's the time to really go, okay, what's bothering me today?
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking of like a morning practice and our channels, so after we've investigated, right, we've taken inventory, and we've noted, okay, this is what's going on in my mind, and this is what's going on in my body, and this is what's going on in my spirit. And if you don't know, then take a moment and get quiet with yourself and let it come. Don't
Hmm.
think too hard. It doesn't
Right.
all come through the mind. Let it come through a 10-minute meditation, or a nice quiet walk. Once you've taken inventory, then decide, okay, now what are my practices, right?
Hmm.
What practices do I want to or need to let go of right now? Right, you mentioned, oh, maybe I've been eating more through COVID, maybe we've been home more, maybe we've been sucking up the sensationalized news too much, and we're, sucking on lollipops while we're doing it. um, Take
Scotch. That's the only
inventory.
way you can take the news.
That's right. That's right. And so make a note. What practices do I need to let go of? What avoidances or what denial do I need to let go of? And what practices do I want to start or infuse?
Mm,
And it doesn't matter that it's February,
right.
dates don't matter. We have this moment, we have today, we have right now. So that would be the next step after investigation.
Mm. Allowing the now, right? The gift is in the present. Um, I think it's just as important at the end of our day to
Mm.
download the day and not go to sleep with the worry of tomorrow or maybe the pressure of the day. So it's just as important for our health and sleep practices to let go of the day as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know many people have a morning practice and an evening practice, so whatever works, there's so many wonderful practices. And I think that, in within our practices, what we're letting go of, what we're infusing or starting, it's important to have a plan, and
Mm,
I'll break down what that means: support and accountability.
mm-hmm,
So within a plan, I'm talking about three pillars of a healthy lifestyle. Now, there are more, but these three pillars are a plan of eating, a
mm-hmm,
plan of exercise, and a plan of stress reduction.
mm-hmm,
Okay. And if you don't have that, then it's time to cultivate that. And if you need support in cultivating that, then you go out and you either find a friend, a buddy, a community group, a mentor, a coach, whatever it is to you. And, we're just too much all over the place,
yeah,
willy nilly, a million things, picking and choosing and not having something solid,
mm-hmm,
right? And it becomes harder and harder again to trust ourselves because so many influencers are coming in. So, a plan, support, and accountability. This is what I do with my clients and myself.
mm-hmm. Accountability is a big one. Again, it's why this is called your health is your interest. It's up to you. Um, we know when we're feeling out of sorts. And you talked about the news, and certainly with the year of COVID and um, the political arena that we've been in for the last 4 or 5 years, just stress in itself of not knowing what tomorrow is, and will I survive another day? All of that's going on. It has such an interruption in our psyche, and in our souls and our hearts and our spirits, and that can disconglomerate us completely, and it troubles the mind, and the mind doesn't know how to work it out, because this is data, this is knowledge, information that we've acquired. If we can listen to our soul, our divine knowledge, and let it resonate with the heart and truth given to the spirit of action, our mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. But if we're thinking it all the time and chewing it over in our thoughts all the time, we then worry about it. And then next thing you know, it's the CNN effect. A pimple has become a volcanic eruption. And our mind will do that, won't it? Oh, what if? Oh, what that? What happens then? And we can build our own hysteria up, and that will break our whole body and psyche down.
100%, and this is a perfect segue. We're talking about mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, as we're doing these practices, whatever they may be, and resistance arises as it
Mm-hmm.
will. And we want resistance to arise because we want to get underneath it.
Yeah.
And that's where the real healing is. And underneath it is mindset. Well, what is mindset? Really, mindset is our thoughts and our beliefs. And, I like to say, if you don't program your
Mm-hmm.
mind programs you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what you were describing, taking all this stuff in and getting all out of sorts, we think, only because we've been trained this way, that what we think and what we say and what we speak, that we are, quote unquote, reporting the news. We're simply saying what's happening. We're saying what's in front of us. While the truth is, we're actually charting our course, right?
Mm.
We're actually, creating our pathway and developing the outcomes in our lives, or, the reality that we see, our experience. So until we have an effective mindset method practice, right? Practice, daily practice,
Mm-hmm.
like meditation, like exercise. The place where a lot of us get hung up with mindset is that we're focused on mindset concepts such as think positive.
Yeah.
Mindset concept. Nothing wrong with thinking positive. That's great. However, that's not inherently a practice that raises awareness, or a
Mm-hmm.
practice that teaches us where we were, where we're coming from, and where we're going. It's not, these concepts, treat myself well, fantastic, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. Affirmations are great, but on their own, they're not a practice that helps me connect the dots between my thoughts and beliefs and the outcomes in my life, right? This
Right.
is very different. And this is where I use the shadow and light framework in my work to help folks really connect those dots and see growth in that area, because mindset is really the queen pin, the base, the foundation of all long lasting, sustainable transformation.
Yeah, if the mind doesn't allow ourselves to hear the spirit, then the heart won't connect with it. So the mind can block anything, but an open mind is going to receive all that it needs to know. So it's having an open mind, being inquisitive, being wondrous, isn't it? You know, even over your health. Okay, all right, I've developed this problem. Why have I developed it? I want to be inquisitive. I want to ask, but then I can't just ask the mind. I've got to allow the mind to ask the whole of me, all of the other senses, all of the other spirit inside of us to get the answer. And if we stop analyzing and then start inquiring, we will receive the knowledge we need to receive.
Absolutely. And when you say open mind, that makes me think that, well, how can we have an open mind when we have a cluttered mind? Right? And we can't necessarily just snap our fingers. We can say, okay, yes, I really want to be open minded. I so much I'm praying, to be open minded, which is wonderful. But, if you have a house or a room that's filled with clutter, praying is wonderful. You still got to move the stuff out. You still got
Yes.
to organize and take inventory and get rid of what you don't need and redo or reprogram, right?
Right.
So sometimes having that open mind takes some work on the back end and some guidance as to how to do that effectively.
Yeah. Um, I think one of the problems that we have is that we think more than we feel. And I personally do a hell of a lot better when I feel my knowledge and don't think my knowledge, because then I know that knowledge is a connection to all of me. Um, but the food for thought can come from the feeling. And again, that goes back to your health in tuning, in tunement in. It's like, okay, all right, no, the gut's not feeling good. Am I putting different food in there? Am I getting too worried? Have I changed some product that's having an effect? Be inquisitive, right? Be inquiring. But I think what we are very quick to do is come to a conclusion before we should, or a judgment very often. Then we start beating ourselves up. Oh, I've gained COVID weight. How could I do that? And we beat ourselves up for it. That's not going to help our psyche, is it? That's not going to help any healing.
It's not going to help at all, and uh, it resonates to the point of going to this quick fix, going
Mm,
to solution immediately. I think collectively we're just trained that way, going to this fix instead of what you're saying, being inquisitive. And, inquisitive sort of speaks to the mind, but what we're saying is to get in touch with your body and to sit down for 10 minutes, 15 minutes in meditation. All that means is getting quiet, taking some deep breaths, focusing back to the present moment, or going for a walk, preferably in nature.
mhm.
And, when the mind persists, come back to, oh, that tree is so beautiful. Oh, those leaves are so green. Oh, that light coming through. Because when you can name what you see or even name what you hear, it helps bring us back to the
Mhm.
present moment. And from that place, we're guided to our best fruition, right?
Yeah.
From that place, we can hear what's going on without making a list of pros and cons in our
Yeah.
mind. That serves a purpose, but not every time.
Right. Kind of takes us back to our own channel, doesn't it?
That's right. I love that. Our own
So,
channel.
and then, the reason why we want to be on that channel is that's where we groove. That's our frequency. That's where we know that we can fluidly move forward. And life energy is about fluidity. It's about constant movement, not stagnation. And I think a lot of the time we become stagnant out of fear. And fear is irrational, like depression is irrational. You know, you can't talk your way out of it. You're afraid, you don't know why you're afraid, and then you're afraid that you're afraid, and it can just build and build from there. And you cannot move forward because it becomes a complete block. So it's really kind of quite essential that we try and stay within our channels and find a way to always come back to our channel and not end up in that fear zone, because that's a hard one to deal with, isn't it?
Well, an unmanaged mind is debilitating.
Yes.
And this is one reason, we see a lot of mindset coaches out there. Um, we must learn to manage our mind. And I think it's the big human trick that it doesn't come up like in childhood and if ever, right? And we're going along trying to figure things out and figure out why maybe we're more miserable than we think we need to be, or we don't have this, or we want this.
Hmm.
And
A lack.
without understanding, yeah, like that you're saying, we are drowning in the fear,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for it, and there is a way out, again, with an effective mindset method such as the shadow and light framework.
Right. What is the shadow mind framework? What do you actually do with that?
So, the shadow and light framework is a sequence of steps that helps us simply connect the dots between our thoughts and beliefs and our outcomes. And in a nutshell, it's sort of easier to get when you see a visual, but in a nutshell, we look at all situations as neutral.
Hmm.
And this can take a minute to really wrap ourselves around. I had a client who was yelling at me. She wasn't mad at me, but boy, was she's going to tell me this situation was not neutral. It was bad. It was definitely bad, and I can tell you all the ways it's bad. I cannot see how it would be neutral. And this is where it starts. And what that means is that we get to decide how to be in relationship with a
Mm,
situation. Okay.
right.
And it's not a moral judgment. We're never going to say oppression of any kind is okay. That's not what it's about. What we're saying is this is a situation, it's neutral. If I asked 100 different people, we're going to get a variety of different responses. Now I get to decide how to be in relationship with it with my thought. And then we begin the investigation. And we don't just jump to, okay, what's my positive thought? We investigate the shadow side, the
Yes.
knee jerk, the unintentional, perhaps repeated pattern thought of decades.
Hmm.
And every thought creates an emotion. Every emotion drives our practices, AKA behaviors, actions, avoidances, and our practices produce the outcomes. So this
Mm.
is this sequence. And the more and more that we can use it as a practice, bring it into the daily. It becomes easier over time and integrative. And we get to shift after raising awareness, we get to shift our emotional state, which changes everything in our lives.
I like the fact that you call it the shadow, because it's almost like a nagging feeling, isn't it? Um,
Sure.
and sometimes we have those triggers. It takes us back to a difficult time, and it's like the shadows chasing you, and you're worried it's going to encompass you into the dark again. And that fear itself can, allow the development of it. Instead of going, okay, this is a bad memory here, but that's what it is, a memory. It is no longer a part of my life. It's just a shadow from the past. Let it go. Uh, but that requires us stepping into a rational state of being, which sometimes we really do need to be, don't we?
We do, and the purpose isn't even not being in the shadow or eradicating it or never going there. I don't think that's humanly possible.
No.
The purpose is raising awareness. That's
Yes.
all. And
Not being
being
not being
kind.
afraid to be there. Yeah.
Yes, right. Because once we have a thought that puts us the fear of being there, we're just going to stay stuck there.
Yeah.
So it's for our learning. That's where
Yes.
the freedom comes in. That's where the liberation comes.
Hmm. I had a long period where I kind of went into the dark and I could see the light out there. And the exterior of me, was still doing this and that for everybody, but the interior of me had just gone into the darkness, and it was a protection thing, kind of shut my soul down for a while. And then when I came out, I felt like of course, it's very bright at first. You got to adjust to that light. And then I felt like the shadows were following me, going to pull me back in. And it took me some time to work on it. I can now go into the dark quite happily and peacefully because I realize I am the light. So if I do get a trigger of anything, I can look at it and go, oh, yeah, no, I don't want to go back there. That's just a memory.
Yeah, I
Right?
like that. You can differentiate, and
Yes,
you're not afraid of one side because you know there's a whole that exists.
yes. I'm no longer that person.
Yeah.
So I can't go back into that because that person, is a totally different person to who I am now. One of the reasons I love doing these shows is people sharing their courage and their strength of what they've learned through their adversity, through their challenges, the skills and the tools that they learn, that they then pass on to others, that they share with. And we sell ourselves short as human beings. We're actually incredibly awesome. We're incredibly capable. We have so many abilities that we don't allow ourselves to. But a lot of it, we live in the expectation and the dictation of society, historical society, current society, whatever is imposed upon us. You must live within these brackets. And as human spirits, we don't want to belong to any brackets. Now, there's a difference being on your own channel as opposed to being in a restraint of expectation.
Yeah, I love that. Your channel versus these brackets.
Hmm.
And again, this all speaks to if you don't program your mind programs
Yeah.
you, and it's already happening. This has happened since birth.
Hmm.
So part of what we do is a reprogramming to discover our channel and to dedicate ourselves to connecting with our channel and as much as possible the people that resonate, that are in alignment,
Yes.
with our channel.
Same frequency. Yep. The same
Yes,
wavelength.
exactly. Why make life harder
Hmm.
than it has to be? We have inherent struggles, and being in a body, and managing the mind. I mean, all of it. So, foolish not to win in our own fantasies was something that doctors Ron and Mary Holnick said in my spiritual psychology program. So, we have to set ourselves up to have as much fun and
Hmm.
creativity and connection and love and liberation as we possibly can.
I mean, take a skater. Can you name a skater that got on the ice that never fell down? Right? You fall down, you learn to get back up. The more you fall down, the quicker you learn to get back up. You miss that jump, okay, you were off kilter, get back into sync, you'll hit it again the next moment. And that is life, isn't it? We're not always going to walk the steady line. And it's not about a line anyway. It's like the DNA twirl, that's more what life is all about. It's like if you do fall or if you do get off kilter, don't panic. And we're saying tap into your emotions, but don't become emotional about them. Your emotions are an indication of where you're at right now. Address where you're at. Why do I feel like that? What's causing that? Okay, all right, I can let that go. All right, I don't want that feeling. Let the emotion go. It was there to tell you a state of mind. What caused the state of mind? Don't get caught up in the hysteria of it or the fear of it. Just address it and move on. And in a lot of ways, I think the reason why people are addicted to soap operas is that we can have a soap opera running in our lives if we're not careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the skater, if we look at the skater falling as neutral,
Yes,
and the difference in everybody's experience of that is going to be what comes next.
yes.
What did I decide to think about that, right? Was that a learning experience?
Mhm.
That's going to create a very different emotion than if I say, oh my God, I'm bad, I'm a terrible skater, right? That's gonna be a different emotion. Those emotions are going to produce different practices, and from there we're going to have different outcomes. So really, we learn to investigate and to, in the process, manage our mind so that the skater falling, if that's us, it's a neutral situation, and we get to decide how to be in relationship with it. Therefore, how to influence our reality, our lived experience, the outcomes, the results in our life.
When we know what not to do, we know better of what to do, right? And part of life is learning, oh no, that was a cul-de-sac. Well, why did you go down that cul-de-sac? Maybe there was something you needed to learn along the way. What was it? Be attentive, right? It doesn't mean the end of the road for you, staring at the end of the cul-de-sac and going, oh, I don't know where to go now. Turn around, go back out, seek something else out. You know, like the wonderful book Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson, MD. Two mice, two men around abundance of cheese. One day the cheese is gone. And it's the reaction. Sniffy and Scurry go looking for more cheese. Hem and Ha, Ha is like, I don't know what to do. Took a while before we realized I'm hungry. I need to go and look for some more cheese. And Hem wanted to sue someone. Give me back my cheese. I'm not moving until you do. And those are the reactions that we can have over things. And what we feed is what will grow. So don't feed the mistake. It was just a learning. That's all it is. It's learning how to get back up. It's not about the doomsday of falling down. We're going to fall so many times in our lives, but how quickly can we get back up?
Yes, and if you've learned from an experience, then it's a success.
Yes,
Period.
yes.
Period.
Triumph. I got back up. I did it again without falling. Yay. Yeah. And if you put that experience in your backpack and it goes with you everywhere and it gives you confidence to go and try other things, because it doesn't matter if you fall on the next thing, you know you can get back up. I
Yeah,
think the terminology
absolutely.
we say to people is lighten up, right?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about your diabetic book, Type 2 Diabetes. It's really prevalent out there right now, and done a few shows on it, and it can be completely controlled, by diet, by exercise, by a different mindset completely. Of course, immediately the doctors want to put you on the drugs. You don't want to go on that. You want to control it in different ways. But we have so much of it. And you're like, one of your things is sugar. We're sweet enough, folks.
True. Yeah. I've been focusing a lot on sugar addiction and taking folks through the pathway of progress and success to examine what's going on and take a holistic approach. Of course, mind, body, and spirit. Physiology plays a role, mindset plays a role, and satisfaction plays a role. So, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, the whole spectrum of metabolic syndrome, fatty liver disease, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and now even Alzheimer's, all connected to excess processed and refined sugar and
Mm,
carbohydrates, what it does in the body. And it's preventable, it's reversible. And if you decide that you're ready to shift and you want to put some energy toward your lifestyle practices, perhaps with some guidance, then it's doable, and it's a gentler approach. Pharmaceuticals don't heal diabetes. They never will. They will perhaps dampen some symptoms and produce other symptoms. Meanwhile, the condition progresses. It
yes.
doesn't matter if you're taking a pharmaceutical and it's lowering your blood sugar to some extent, the condition, insulin resistance, is still progressing over time. You see people with complications, whether it's eyes or kidney or their limbs. Well, a great number of those people are on the pharmaceuticals. They are taking insulin. So it's by no means a cure. And again, it takes us back to industry-driven healthcare versus intuitive-driven healthcare. and they're doing the same things that they were doing, 20, 30, 40
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. Um, I have a nephew with type 1 diabetes. He's had it since a child, and he's going through various operations with his eyes right now, that his eyes are literally protruding and he may lose his eyesight.
Mm.
And he's been through hell and back with his diabetes. When people get the type 2 diabetes, oh yeah, I've got type 2 diabetes. It's almost like, I've won something.
Mm.
And, it's like, and it becomes an excuse. And it's like, okay, well, type 1 is hereditary. It's kind of a different system. Type 2 is completely controllable. Obviously, you can make type 1 a lot better with control as well. But we don't need to have type 2. There was a brilliant documentary on sugar of a Australian guy that went to America. He was there, I think, 3 to 5 weeks, and he ate, slushies and
Mm.
other stuff, that were supposed to be healthy. And he gained so much weight, and it took him 3 months when he went back home to get off the sugar bus and to get his body back into sync again. We forget there's sugar in everything. It's not just a question of you adding sugar, it's in everything. And so your poor body's been bombarded with it all the time.
True, and we forget, or we might not have, um, wrapped ourselves around the perspective that sugar is a drug.
Hmm.
Sugar is a drug,
That's why we call it a
it
sugar high.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very powerful. It's addicting. We
Hmm.
want more. It affects the physiology. If we're burning sugar predominantly for fuel, the body is simply going to ask for more. We've been, sold a bill of goods
Mm.
on that. We need to fuel up with a bunch of carbohydrates. It's not true, and we get sucked in, and it can be very destructive, not only to the body but emotionally. We have great suffering from feeling out of control, from feeling bad about ourselves, hating ourselves, feeling our creativity gets dampened,
Yeah.
and a lot of fatigue,
Hmm.
big exhaustion, that fog, cognitive fog, so that we can't think clearly. So, for anyone unclear, it's a drug.
Hmm. Yeah. I live with a 87-year-old. The amount of sugar that she consumes in a day, and it's vinegar, salt, and sugar, and she's stronger than I am. But she has no teeth anymore, and it's just I marvel at how much she could put in herself and still be going. I don't have sugar in anything. Yes, I go for some dark chocolate, and I love dried fruit and that type of thing. But I can't add sugar. She'll say, "Oh, try this. It's so nice," and my teeth are going like this because it's so sweet. And she couldn't restrict her sugar now. She's this complete sugar addict, where I gave it up a long time ago. Um, we can give it up. And it's just like anything that you're going to go through, you're giving up a habit, and your body likes that habit, like any form of drug addict. It likes it. It likes the way it feels, whether it's doing you good or not. And this is where the mind really has to come in and be strong, doesn't it? And say, no, I am going to do this. I value my body more.
It does, and it really takes a comprehensive approach.
Hmm.
It's not about willpower, it's
Right.
not about discipline. It's about having a plan, support, and accountability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's completely doable when you have support and you have guidance, and you start putting the pieces together, and you start gaining some momentum and feeling better. The sky starts to open up,
Yes.
as you become liberated.
Your book is Wave Goodbye to Type 2 Diabetes, 16 Holistic Practices to Prevent and Reverse Diabetes and Reclaim Joy, Vitality, and Plenty. I think I'm reading this without my glasses.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it's especially in North America, it has just become secondary, like, oh yeah, I've got type 2, I've got type 2, I've got type 2. And we look at the heart disease, it's so much more than it ever used to be. We look at cancer, and it's just, it's now become as common as the common cold. And we're just accepting this as a society and going, but why? We should be having access to healthier foods. We should be having access to nutritions or supplements if we're not eating the right food. This should be the way it is now in this world, but we're not, are we? We just seem to be eating very badly, and so many chemicals, in the foods that we eat, or GMO and sugar and things like that, that it's literally breaking our systems down faster than ever.
True. I mean, big food, big pharma, they're
Yeah.
run by greed and money. You
Yes.
know, they're not run with our health interests in mind.
No,
So
as getting sick is profitable for them.
yeah, and again, it's that system that we've talked about, and stepping into intuitive driven healthcare, connecting with those who are on cutting edge paths
Hmm. Hmm.
of healing and recovery. And by cutting edge, that can mean going for a walk with a little sun in nature,
Yes.
coming back to the earth and to our roots. But yeah, it's gotten way out of control. I mean, we see children now with fatty liver disease,
Mm,
similar to an alcoholic from all the sodas and
yeah.
high fructose corn syrup. Um, so yeah, you got to make a decision. Hopefully, it's a wise one, and just start walking down that path.
Well, this is why your health is your choice.
That's right.
Just because it's on the supermarket shelf does not mean it's good for you. This is where we actually have to go, okay, what is good for my body? What is good for my mind? We're seeing, education of kids just not being able to finish school or not get good grades. And that's the foggy mind coming from the foggy diet and, the wrong kind of exercise and uh, overstimulus, TV, phone, and everything else, not enough walk in nature or participant in nature. And all of that comes into play, doesn't it? It all adds up.
Right, and then the next thing you know, there's a mental health diagnosis, and now you got to get on the pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
and to compound the issue. So yeah, absolutely.
And we have now in mental health day, and we have cancer day, and we have this day and that day, and there's millions and trillions of dollars going into cancer research. Well, if we could treat cancer as a physical and emotional disease, then we could get to the root of what is the cause of it, instead of just again, radiation and, you know, 50-50 if you survive. I've interviewed an awful lot of people with cancer that have gone alternative ways, and they realize a great deal of it was um, the emotional stress that was within their body is what caused the cancer. So an awful lot of these diseases that we see as commonplace today can all be preventable, can't they?
Absolutely.
Again, up to us. What are we going to do about it? It's not like, oh, I've been diagnosed with this, that's it, my life is over, or I'm just going to live on the drugs now and woe is me, I have it. It's what am I going to do about it? What avenues are there that I can get around? And as you said, have the plan, right? Be inquisitive and be accountable. If we're not accountable for our own health, who the hell is?
Yeah, and instead of saying, I don't know what to do, which I think is one of the
The
first
first voice.
knee-jerk thoughts, yeah, that we go to, I don't know what to do. And understandably, there's so much information. That's a thought. Okay, that's
Yeah,
a choice. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's that you're choosing to say those words and that sentence,
yeah,
I don't know what to do. We can investigate that and learn from that, and then move into, let me find out what I can do.
yeah.
Let me find out. And, at the end of the day, there's 100 programs, coaches, mentors, whatever. Pick one,
Right.
you know,
You
do a
don't
little
have
bit
to
of
do it
research.
alone.
Yeah, do a little research,
Yeah.
ask some friends or community, narrow it down to three, do a little bit more research, see who you vibe with, who you resonate with, and then pick and go.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta go.
I
Yeah.
have a word every year, and my word this year is actionism. It's no more talk, step into action, right?
Right.
Actionism. And there was one woman I interviewed who did speed shrinking instead of speed dating. She wanted to find a shrink, so she did speed shrinking.
Right.
10-minute interview with all of them to find the right one. And
Yeah.
the thing is, yeah, our initial reaction is, oh gosh, what am I going to do? Well, that's where inquisitive, right? Wonderment comes into, okay, I've been diagnosed with this ABC. What can I do to empower myself? What can I do? I don't know what to do right now. That's okay. Don't get stuck there. Why do I do all of these shows? I bring you people who know what you need to do. All you need to do is listen to them, then reach out to them and let them help you and guide you along the way. But you have to reach out to people. That's part of your proactiveness. That's a part of your accountability. You're not meant to do it all on your own. That's something I think we've also become very insular on. Oh, I can heal myself. Oh, no, I don't need anyone. We all need somebody. And you need somebody who's either been there before you or studied it and knows what you need to do in this moment. You're going to do it, but they're going to guide you through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And instead of, oh my God, I don't know what to do, the thought could be, I'm going to find the best program ever. And, there's so many people now, coaches,
Yeah.
like myself, we give complimentary consults.
Yes.
Many people do. So
Yes.
it's really being willing to engage and to ask some questions and to show up for yourself and to find a good fit, and to just move past the fear and
You're
do
right.
it.
Who's on your vibe?
Yeah.
Who's on your wavelength? They understand. And, this is again why I do the show. When you're listening to a show and you feel that that person's talking to you, that person's hearing you, then you know that frequency is a complementary one. Reach out,
Yeah, they
right?
can relate to my channel, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's great.
Because, they could be, I mean, I'm totally and utterly opposed to one size fits all.
Yeah.
And, it isn't. You're going to go with somebody who's in tuned with you. And not every practitioner can be in tune with everyone. Some people are working on a different frequency that you just don't connect with. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, again, all the different frequencies that were out there. But when you get somebody who gets you and you know that they're talking to you, then it's like, I really want to know this person more. I know, I feel a synergy, right?
Yes.
And I'm more likely to listen to that person because I've already connected. And you're more likely to reach that person because they're open to receiving.
Yes, and when you're with someone that does understand your channel and you're on a similar frequency, it's okay to have differences of opinions.
Hmm.
It's okay to not love every moment.
Right.
And a good coach will gently push you a bit past your comfort zone because they want what's in your best interest. They want you to grow, they want you to excel, to evolve. So it's not to say that the right match feels good every single time. There will likely be some work that you might not want to do or
Right.
that you don't think is necessary, but your coach or mentor practitioner, might know otherwise from their experience. So sometimes you just have to let go. And if it's the right frequency, give up some control and trust and know that you're co-participating in your healthcare and in your life.
And the thing is, until you try it, you don't know if it's going to work. Oh, I tried it once and I'll never do that again. Well, you tried it once, but have you tried it this way? Or maybe your third time is the time that it really connects with you. We can't expect, every time, oh, that is going to be ding dong bells, right? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You've got to do it a few times, especially if the mind is resistant, because the mind has to kind of reprogram itself into a different pattern. And it's going to be resistant at first. It doesn't want to do that because it's in that pattern hold. You're changing that pattern hold. And that sometimes takes a few times of repetitiveness before it's at ease with it.
Yeah, or months of
Oh, months,
repetitiveness.
yes. It just depends
We're
how
talking
how
about,
big a
yeah,
hole it is.
yeah, we might be unwinding years
Hmm.
of old stories, myths that don't serve us. So give it some time. I have clients sometimes that after a few weeks, oh, I'm not doing it right. I don't think I'm making progress. Uh, you know, be gentle with yourself. We just started. Give yourself a
Yeah.
break. Commend yourself for stepping in.
Hmm.
Celebrate every tiny win.
Yeah, because you never know when that light bulb is going to come on.
That's right.
And we know that it takes 3 months for our cellular structure to change. And that 90-day, the reason why it's used so much on so many things is because that's when the turnover is cellular, mentally, everything. And we know, I think it takes 8 positives to undo one negative. So, it's those affirmations of speaking to yourself. Speak positively to yourself. Don't just go throw in a negative there. Now you've just put a spanner in the works. And it does take persistence. A lot of people have been sold the bill of goods that the quick fix is just take this pill, download this app, just do this, and everything will be hunky dory. As you said, you took a long time to get into ill health. It takes a long time to come out of it, but the more you nurture it and feed it, the quicker the process will be.
Perseverance pays,
Mm.
and it's not always on our timeline.
No, there is no time in the hereafter or in the spirit world anyway. So it's it is the step by step, and that take that actionism, be persistent, be accountable. Don't beat yourself up if you fall. That's okay, because the lesson was to how are you going to get back up? Are you going to sit there moaning and go, I fell? Or are you going to go, oh, no, I'm not going to have this. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to get back up and face what I need to face. That's where you discover your strength. That's where you discover your courage. That's where you discover your abilities. And all of a sudden, you stop selling yourself short and you believe you can do so much more in life.
Yeah, great point. 100% agree.
So we're our own worst enemies, because we are inclined to reiterate all the negative and everything that's been sold us. Um, the changing of the mind, the listening of the soul and the heart, the lifting up of our spirit, the participation in our own lives is absolutely essential, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, what kind of program, how does it go through with them? What's your system there? Share that with people and how they can get hold of you.
Oh, yeah. So, a few different ways. So, I do the Shadow and Light Framework one-on-one health coaching. And I'm also opening Ditch the Sugar Academy, a membership,
Hmm.
which is going to be really incredible. I'm doing welcoming in founding members in a matter of weeks to give me feedback, help me lay the groundwork. And the best place right now would probably be my free Facebook group, and it's called Joy, Vitality, and Plenty. And the link is drnikkisteinberger.com/community. And I do Ditch the Sugar Lives weekly in there, so you can get a taste of all that we're talking about. And I do have a free resource for your listeners. We've talked about practices and different practicing and what to do, and sometimes we just kind of need it on paper, and
Yeah.
sometimes we want something a little bit out of the box. So I compiled a checklist of practices that you can find at drnikkisteinberger.com/practice.
Would you spell your name for our audio people, please?
Sure. DRNICKISTEINBERGER
.com.
.com.
Excellent. There is always an answer. We've just got to be willing to look for it, be open to it, right? And very often, if you put out the call, I need help with this, I need somebody that guides me, pay attention. You're going to feel them, and suddenly, all of a sudden, you're connected, and it's not for us to know how that connection is going to be about, but people pop up in your life, as you say, when the student is ready, the teacher's there. And it's be aware of what's around you, good and bad, and be willing and open to explore and receive, because you just don't know until you try.
Absolutely.
How do people
Who
get hold
says
of the
that?
book?
The book is available on Amazon, and I can give you the direct link. It is drnikkisteinberger.com/wave book. WAVEBOOK.
Excellent. We all need help. It doesn't matter who we are or what we're going through. We can get to a point where we're managing quite well on our own, and then we have a stumbling or have something happen, and we need somebody there that can just put us back on track, get back into our channel. And there is no shame in that, because we are not meant to we're meant to walk the walk on our own, but we're not meant to have all the knowledge and just find it all on our own. That's the reason why you've been given the gift of the wisdom that you have, and you're there to share it with people who are at that stuck. And as you said, the mind. The mind gives permission to everything else to be heard. So we need to get in there and have a dialogue with that mind and start changing it from there, don't we?
Yeah, and we heal together. We heal when we step out of isolation and come into community. So I'm happy to connect with any of your listeners. Again, if it seems like a good fit, I do give complimentary consults and lots of different free resources to support you in taking the next step to your well-being and your health.
And the big thing is, as you said, is accountability. And I say is participation in your own life. This isn't you handing yourself over to someone to fix. As I said, no downloadable app for it. It is you participating in your own life, doing what you need to do to get back on track, back in channel with yourself. And the reward that you get at the end of it, of who you become, how you see your life, how you live your life, is so abundant and enriching. It's really worth the time to invest in yourself.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for sharing with us here. Most certainly the book most certainly is needed. As I said, we've got so much diabetes out here right now. And so the book again is called, hang on, I'll get to it, is Wave Goodbye to Type 2 Diabetes. We do need to wave goodbye to that. We need to understand the sugar that's in everything and driving us. We need to be more engaged with who we are, mind, body, spirit, and soul. And we need help in getting ourselves back on track and into traveling with ourselves and the people that are there along the way. So her Facebook group is Joy, Vitality, and Plenty. Dr. Nicki Steinberger.com community. And she's in LinkedIn, Dr. Nicki. She's on Instagram, Dr. Nicki Steinberger. She's on Twitter, Dr. Nick, PhD. And of course, her site is drnikkisteinberg.com. Take a look at the book, reach out to her, look at all the freebies that she's got, and just, get the feel. And as she said, she gives a free consult. You're losing nothing. Have a chat, see if there's that synergy. If what she's got will help you where you're going right now. But please do something. Take actionism. Please do something, right? So
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me, and I look forward to connecting with your listeners and supporting whoever I can. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, that's what we're here for. And again, we're not meant to do it alone. You're there to help them on that journey. And when they do, imagine when they become more enriched and abundant within themselves and their health, mind, body, and soul, what gift they then become to other people. So it's always about sharing it forward, isn't it?
It is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Until next time, folks, remember your health is your choice. Dr. Nick is here to help you. You're not alone. You are never alone, but I'm afraid you do have to take some actionism. Until next time, bye for now. Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is